The phone buzzed at exactly 2:17 a.m., jolting me from the kind of restless half-sleep that had become my norm lately. Emily's name glowed on the screen, and I already knew what was coming before I answered. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "Hey, honey," her voice came through, slightly breathless. "I'm so sorry to call this late. The Henderson project is completely falling apart, and we're pulling an all-nighter to fix it before the presentation tomorrow." I sat up in our king-sized bed, staring at the empty space where my wife of 12 years should have been sleeping. The sheets on her side were cold, untouched since I'd gone to bed alone at 11. "That's rough, Em. How much longer do you think?" That's when I heard it, a male voice in the background, low but audible. "No way he believes that bullshit." Then another voice, definitely Trevor from her office. "Shh, he might hear you." My blood turned to ice. Emily was still talking, something about spreadsheets and client demands, but the words became white noise. I could hear muffled laughter, the clink of glasses, what sounded suspiciously like a television playing some late-night movie. "Alex, are you there?" Emily's voice cut through my mental fog. "Yeah," I managed, my voice steady despite the hurricane building in my chest. "I'm here." "Good. Don't wait up, okay? This might take until dawn." "Sure thing, sweetheart. Work hard." I hung up and immediately opened the Find My Phone app we'd installed years ago for safety. Emily's location showed her at the Sunset Motor Lodge on Highway 74, 15 miles from her downtown office. "Well," I said to the empty bedroom, "at least now I know why she's been working so many late nights." My name is Alex Carter, and up until that moment, I thought I had a pretty good life. I'm 42, a cybersecurity consultant who works mostly from home, and I'd been married to Emily since we were both young and stupid enough to believe in forever. She's a project manager at Pinnacle Tech Solutions, the kind of woman who can organize a corporate retreat for 200 people while simultaneously planning a dinner party and remembering her mother's birthday. Or at least, that's who I thought she was. I sat there in the dark for maybe 10 minutes, running through the past 6 months in my mind like a highlight reel of red flags I'd been too trusting to see. The late nights that started in February, the new gym membership she'd gotten in March, along with a whole new wardrobe of clothes that seemed designed to show off her newly toned body. The way she'd started keeping her phone face down during dinner, the sudden need for girls' nights. With Miranda every Friday. Miranda Walsh, her best friend since college and the HR director at Pinnacle Tech. I'd never liked Miranda much. She had that fake sweet personality that barely concealed a mean streak. But Emily loved her like a sister. Now I was wondering what role Miranda had played in this whole charade. I got dressed in the dark, pulling on jeans and a black t-shirt. My old military training kicked in automatically. Move quiet, think fast, stay calm. I'd done 2 tours in Afghanistan before getting out and starting my consulting business, and while I'd never expected to use those skills on my cheating wife, life has a way of surprising you. The drive to the Sunset Motor Lodge took 23 minutes through empty streets. It's the kind of place that rents rooms by the hour and doesn't ask questions, sitting on the outskirts of town like a guilty secret. I parked across the street behind a Denny's and used my phone to zoom in on the parking lot. Emily's silver Honda Civic was parked right next to a black BMW that I recognized immediately. Trevor Holt's car, complete with the vanity plate that read "Closer," a reference to his job in sales that I'd always found obnoxious. Trevor was 31, 6 feet tall, and spent more on his hair products than I spent on groceries. He'd joined Pinnacle Tech about 8 months ago, and Emily had mentioned him exactly once, describing him as that new guy in sales who thinks he's God's gift to women. Apparently, she'd changed her mind about that assessment. I sat in my truck for another hour, watching the motel room window where warm light glowed behind thin curtains. Occasionally, I could see shadows moving around inside. My phone buzzed twice with text messages from Emily. "Still working, might be here all night, and love you, get some sleep." Each message felt like a knife twisting in my gut, but I was surprised to find that the pain was quickly being replaced by something else, cold, calculating anger. The kind of rage that doesn't make you do stupid things, but instead makes you very, very smart about the stupid things you're going to do to other people. At 4:30 a.m., I drove home and went to bed. I had planning to do. I woke up at 7 to the sound of Emily's key in the front door. She came into the bedroom looking appropriately disheveled, her usually perfect blonde hair mussed and her makeup smudged. She was carrying her laptop bag and a coffee cup from the Starbucks near her office. A nice touch, I had to admit. "Hey," she whispered, thinking I was still asleep. "How'd you sleep?" I opened my eyes and gave her my best sleepy husband smile. Like a baby. How'd the Henderson thing go? Terrible. We barely got it finished. She started undressing, and I noticed she was wearing different underwear than what she'd had on yesterday, black lace instead of her usual cotton comfort. I need a shower and maybe 3 hours of sleep before I have to go back in. Poor baby, I said, and meant it in ways she couldn't possibly understand. Go get cleaned up. I'll make you some breakfast. She leaned down and kissed my forehead, and I caught a whiff of cologne that definitely wasn't mine. Trevor wore something expensive and overpowering, Armani or Versace, the kind of scent that announces your presence from across a room. While Emily showered, I sat at my home office computer and got to work. Cybersecurity consulting has its perks, and one of them is knowing how to find information that people think they've hidden. Emily and I shared an iCloud account, which meant I had access to her deleted texts, her location history, and her photo backup. What I found made my stomach turn. The affair had been going on for 4 months. It started with innocent work messages that gradually became flirtier, then moved to personal phones, then to meeting for drinks, to discuss projects, and finally to regular hookups at various motels around the city. The photos were the worst part. Emily had sent Trevor dozens of explicit pictures, including some taken in our bedroom while I was traveling for work. But it was the text messages that really drove the knife home. Emily: Alex is working late again. Want to come over? Trevor: what if he comes home? Emily: he won't. He never pays attention to anything anymore. Trevor: poor guy has no idea what he's missing. Emily: his loss is your gain. There were hundreds of messages like that, going back months. Emily complaining about our marriage, our sex life, my career, even my cooking. Trevor responding with exactly the kind of validation she was apparently craving, mixed with increasingly crude suggestions about what they should do next time they were together. But the real kicker was a group chat between Emily and Miranda called Girls' Night Out. Miranda wasn't just aware of the affair, she was actively encouraging it. Miranda: you deserve to be happy, Em. Alex is holding you back. Emily: I know, but divorce is so messy and expensive. Miranda: so don't get divorced yet. Just have fun. What he doesn't know won't hurt him. Emily: what if he finds out? Miranda: he won't. Men like Alex never do. They're too comfortable, too trusting. You could probably bring Trevor to dinner and Alex would just think he's a work friend. Emily: LOL, you're terrible, but probably right. Miranda: I'm always right. That's why you love me. I printed out everything: screenshots, message logs, location data, photo metadata, the works. By the time Emily got out of the shower, I had a manila folder thick with evidence sitting in my desk drawer. She came into the office wearing one of my old t-shirts, her hair wrapped in a towel. What you working on? Johnson Industries security audit, I lied smoothly. Boring stuff. She kissed the top of my head and headed to the kitchen. You're so good at what you do. I'm lucky to have such a smart husband. The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. Here she was, fresh from screwing another man in a cheap motel, telling me how lucky she was while planning to do it again tomorrow night. I made Emily scrambled eggs and toast, watched her eat while she told me more lies about the Henderson project, then kissed her goodbye when she left for the office at 11. As soon as her car was out of the driveway, I got back to work. Trevor Holt had grown up rich in Charlotte, the son of a real estate developer who'd made millions during the housing boom. He'd bounced around from job to job, using his trust fund to maintain a lifestyle that his actual skills couldn't support. Pinnacle Tech was his 4th job in 3 years, and from what I could see in his social media posts, he treated it more like a social club than a workplace. He lived in Meridian Heights, the most expensive apartment complex in the city, drove a leased BMW, and spent his weekends at the country club his daddy had bought him a membership to. His Instagram was full of pictures of expensive dinners, weekend trips to the mountains, and gym selfies that showed off the body he'd apparently used to seduce my wife. But Trevor had a weakness. He was stupid. His social media privacy settings were a joke, his passwords were variations of his birthday and his car model, and he'd connected his personal email to his work computer. Within 2 hours, I had access to his entire digital life. What I found there was interesting. Trevor wasn't just cheating with my wife. He was also running a side business selling company information to competitors. Nothing technically illegal, but definitely against his employment contract, and probably enough to get him fired if the right person found out about it. I also discovered that Emily wasn't his only affair. He was juggling at least 3 other women, including someone named Jessica from the accounting department, and a married woman named Carol whose husband traveled frequently for work. Trevor was a busy boy. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. Lunch meeting ran long. Won't be home until late again. Order pizza or something. Love you. I checked her location. She was at Trevor's apartment. That's when I decided it was time to stop gathering intelligence and start the counterattack. The Rusty Nail is the kind of bar where everybody knows everybody else's business, and the bartender, Danny Morrison, knows more secrets than a Catholic priest. She's been slinging drinks there for 15 years, and she's got the kind of memory that makes her dangerous and the kind of personality that makes her fun to be around. I'd been going to the Rusty Nail since college, back when Emily and I were dating, and thought we were going to conquer the world together. Danny had served us drinks on our first official date, and she'd been watching our relationship evolve ever since. "Well, look what the cat dragged in," Danny said when I walked in at 3 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. "Alex Carter, as I live and breathe, where's that pretty wife of yours?" "Working," I said, settling onto my usual bar stool. "Always working these days." Danny poured me a beer without being asked. She remembered everyone's drink, and gave me the kind of look that said she knew more than she was letting on. "Yeah, I heard she's been putting in some serious overtime lately," she said carefully. "Saw her here last Friday with that Miranda girl and some guy I didn't recognize. Good-looking fellow, expensive suit." My heart started beating faster, but I kept my voice casual. "Probably just work friends. You know how Emily's about networking." Danny wiped down the bar with practiced efficiency. Thing is, they weren't talking much business from what I could see. Lots of laughing, lots of touching. Miranda kept making these jokes about marriage and commitment, and your wife was eating it up. She paused, studying my face. "You okay, honey? You look like someone walked over your grave." "I'm fine," I said, taking a long pull of my beer. "Just thinking about some work stuff." "Uh-huh." Danny moved closer, lowering her voice. "Alex, I've known you for 20 years, and I've never seen you look like this. What's going on?" I stared at my reflection in the mirror behind the bar, seeing a man I barely recognized. My face was thinner than it had been 6 months ago, and there were lines around my eyes that hadn't been there before. I looked like someone who hadn't been sleeping well, which was accurate. "Can I ask you something, Danny? Hypothetically?" "Shoot." "If someone you cared about was being made a fool of, would you tell them, even if it meant destroying their life?" Danny stopped wiping the bar and looked at me directly. "Honey, if someone I cared about was being made a fool of, I'd want them to already know. And if they didn't know, I'd want them to find out before it got worse. What if finding out meant they'd do something stupid? Then I'd hope they'd be smart about being stupid." She reached across the bar and squeezed my hand. "Whatever's going on, Alex, don't let it eat you alive. And don't let anyone make you feel like you deserve it." I finished my beer and left a 20 on the bar. "Thanks, Danny, for everything." "Anytime, sweetheart. And Alex, if you need anything at all, you know where to find me." I drove home and spent the rest of the afternoon setting up what I'd started thinking of as my war room. I moved my computer setup to the guest bedroom, installed some additional security software, and created a series of encrypted folders for all the evidence I was collecting. Then I got to work on phase 1 of my plan. Trevor's Instagram account was linked to his Facebook, his Twitter, and his LinkedIn. His password recovery emails all went to the same Gmail account, and that account used the same password as his Instagram. Within 30 minutes, I had complete control of his social media presence. I didn't do anything dramatic. That would come later. Instead, I started small. I changed his relationship status from single to it's complicated. I liked a bunch of posts from women who weren't Emily, including several from his ex-girlfriend in Charlotte. I posted a gym selfie with the caption, "Working hard to impress someone special," and tagged the location as a gym across town from where he actually worked out. Small things, subtle things, the kind of things that would make Emily start asking questions. Then I moved on to phase 2. Miranda's social media was more locked down than Trevor's, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd used her work email to sign up for her Pinterest account, and I had access to Pinnacle Tech's email server through a security audit I'd done for them 6 months ago. I couldn't read her personal messages, but I could see her email traffic, and that told me everything I needed to know about her schedule. She had a standing appointment every Thursday at 6 p.m. with someone called Dr. Martinez, probably therapy, given that the emails came from a psychology practice downtown. Miranda also had a weakness for online shopping, and she'd been using her work computer to browse during lunch breaks. Her browsing history showed she'd been looking at wedding dresses, engagement rings, and articles about how to know if he's ready to propose. Interesting, Miranda was apparently in a serious relationship that she was keeping quiet. A little more digging revealed that she'd been seeing David Chen, a married city councilman, for about 8 months. The same amount of time she'd been encouraging Emily to cheat on me. I made a note of that information and filed it away for later use. Emily came home at 9:30, looking flushed and happy in a way that made my stomach turn. She kissed me hello and started chattering about her day, mixing real work stories with carefully constructed lies about where she'd been and who she'd been with. Miranda and I grabbed drinks after work, she said, pulling leftovers out of the refrigerator. She's having some drama with this guy she's seeing. I swear that girl has the worst taste in men. What kind of drama? I asked, genuinely curious to see how much Emily knew about Miranda's affair. Oh, you know, he's not ready to commit, she's getting impatient, the usual. Emily heated up some Chinese food in the microwave. I told her she needs to stop wasting time on guys who won't give her what she wants. The irony was so thick I could taste it. Good advice, I said. Life's too short to waste on people who don't appreciate what they have. Emily looked at me sharply, and for a moment I thought she might have caught the double meaning. But then she smiled and came over to kiss me. Exactly. We're lucky, aren't we? To have found each other so young and made it work for so long. Lucky, I agreed, kissing her back and tasting Trevor's cologne on her lips. That night, Emily fell asleep curled against my side, and I lay awake staring at the ceiling, planning my next move. She looked so peaceful, so innocent, that it was hard to believe she was capable of the betrayal I'd uncovered. This was the woman I'd fallen in love with in college, the woman I'd married in a little church in her hometown, the woman I'd planned to grow old with. But people change, and sometimes they change into someone you don't recognize. I was about to show Emily just how much I'd changed, too. Friday morning brought the first crack in Emily's facade. She woke up in a panic, frantically checking her phone and cursing under her breath. What's wrong? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Trevor's Instagram is acting weird. He posted some stuff that doesn't make sense, and his relationship status changed. She was scrolling through his feed, her face getting more confused by the second. And why is he liking all these pictures of other women? I made sympathetic noises while internally celebrating. Maybe his account got hacked? That happens sometimes? Maybe. But she didn't sound convinced. Emily spent the morning texting furiously with someone, probably Miranda, and making hushed phone calls from the bathroom. By the time she left for work, she looked rattled in a way I hadn't seen in months. Perfect. I spent Friday implementing Phase 3 of my plan. I'd been thinking about this part for days, and it required some careful timing and a little bit of luck. Pinnacle Tech's office building had security cameras in the lobby and parking garage, but not in the stairwells. I knew this because I'd done their security audit, and I'd recommended they install additional cameras in those blind spots. They'd decided it wasn't worth the expense. Their mistake. I drove downtown and parked across the street from Pinnacle Tech at 11:30. Emily's car was in its usual spot on the third floor of the parking garage, right next to Trevor's BMW. I waited until lunchtime, when I knew most of the office would be empty, then walked into the building like I owned the place. The security guard, Frank, recognized me from my previous work there. Hey, Alex, what brings you by? Following up on some recommendations from the security audit, I said, showing him my consultant ID. Just need to check a few things in the stairwells. Sure thing. Need me to escort you? Nah, I know my way around. Thanks, though. I took the elevator to the 5th floor, where Pinnacle Tech's offices occupied the entire floor, then slipped into the stairwell. Emily's office was on the east side of the building, with a window that faced the parking garage. Trevor's office was 3 doors down from hers. I planted a small wireless camera in the stairwell, positioned so it would capture anyone coming or going from that section of offices. The camera was the size of a button and would transmit directly to my phone. It wasn't exactly legal, but it wasn't exactly illegal either. The stairwell was technically a public area, and I wasn't recording inside anyone's private office. Then I went to the parking garage and waited. At 12:47, Emily and Trevor emerged from the elevator together. They were standing closer than coworkers should, and Emily was laughing at something Trevor had said. They got into Trevor's BMW and drove away, probably heading to whatever motel they'd picked for today's rendezvous. I used the opportunity to plant a GPS tracker under Trevor's car. Another gray area legally, but I was past caring about legal niceties. Then I went home and waited for the show to begin. The camera I'd planted caught them coming back at 2:15. They were more careful this time, taking separate elevators and entering the office area at different times. But they weren't careful enough. At 4:30, my phone buzzed with a text from Emily. Working late again tonight. Don't wait up. I checked the GPS tracker. Trevor's car was still in the parking garage. At 5:45, I watched them leave together again, this time heading toward Trevor's apartment complex. I followed at a distance, staying far enough back that they wouldn't notice me, but close enough to confirm where they were going. They spent 3 hours at his apartment. I know because I sat in the Starbucks across the street and watched his windows, drinking overpriced coffee and planning what I was going to do next. When Emily finally came home at 9:15, I was ready for her. "How was work?" I asked as she came through the door. "Exhausting. The Henderson project is turning into a nightmare, and now we've got 3 other clients demanding rush jobs." She kicked off her heels and collapsed onto the couch next to me. "I'm thinking about looking for a new job. The stress is killing me." "That's a big decision," I said carefully. "What brought this on?" "I don't know. Office politics, I guess. There's this new guy who's been causing problems, hitting on all the women, creating drama. Miranda thinks he's going to get himself fired, and when he does, it's going to splash back on everyone who's been friendly with him." I almost laughed at the audacity of it. Emily was already preparing her cover story, setting up Trevor as the villain so she could play the innocent victim when everything came crashing down. "Sounds like a real piece of work," I said. "What's his name?" "Trevor something. I don't really know him that well, but Miranda says he's bad news." The lies were coming so easily now that I wondered how long she'd been practicing them. How many other deceptions had I missed over the years? How many other times had she looked me in the eye and told me exactly what I wanted to hear while doing exactly what she wanted to do? "Well," I said, putting my arm around her, "whatever you decide, I'll support you. We're a team, right?" "Right," she said, snuggling closer to me. "I love you, Alex. You know that, right?" "I know," I said, and kissed the top of her head. But what I was thinking was, you have no idea what love actually means. Saturday morning, I put Phase 4 into motion. I created a fake email account using Trevor's name and sent a message to Miranda's work email, asking her to meet him for drinks at the Rusty Nail that evening. The message was flirty and suggestive, implying that Trevor was interested in starting something with her while he was taking a break from Emily. Then I sent a similar email to Emily, supposedly from Miranda, asking her to meet at the Rusty Nail to talk about the Trevor situation and figure out what to do about his inappropriate behavior at work. I scheduled both emails to be sent at different times, Miranda's at noon, Emily's at 2 p.m., and made sure they would both arrive at the bar around 7 o'clock. Then I called Danny and asked her to save me a table with a good view of the front door. "You planning something interesting for tonight?" she asked. "You could say that," I replied. "Just promise me you'll have your phone ready to record video." "Honey, I don't know what you're up to, but I like the sound of it already." Saturday evening, I arrived at the Rusty Nail at 6:30 and positioned myself at a corner table where I could see the entire bar. Danny brought me a beer and a basket of pretzels, then leaned down to whisper in my ear, "Whatever's about to happen, I want you to know I'm on your side." "Thanks, Danny. That means more than you know." Miranda arrived first, at exactly 7 o'clock. She was dressed up more than usual, tight dress, heels, makeup that looked like it had taken an hour to apply. She ordered a martini and kept checking her phone, obviously waiting for someone. Emily showed up 10 minutes later, looking confused when she saw Miranda sitting alone at the bar. "Miranda?" Emily approached her friend cautiously. "What are you doing here? I thought you were meeting me to talk about Trevor." Miranda looked equally confused. "I'm here to meet Trevor. He sent me an email asking me to come." I watched the realization dawn on both their faces at the same time. They'd been set up, and they both knew it. The question was whether they'd figure out who had done it. "This doesn't make sense," Emily said, sliding onto the bar stool next to Miranda. "Trevor doesn't even know your email address." "He could have gotten it from the company directory," Miranda replied, but she didn't sound convinced. They ordered drinks and huddled together, speaking in low voices and occasionally glancing around the bar. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see the growing paranoia in their body language. After about 20 minutes, Emily pulled out her phone and called someone. From her expression, it was clear that Trevor wasn't answering. That's when I decided to make my move. I walked over to their table and sat down without being invited. "Ladies," I said pleasantly, "fancy meeting you here." Emily's face went white. "Alex, what are you doing here?" "Having a drink," I said, raising my beer. "Same as you, though I have to say you both look a little tense. Everything okay?" Miranda recovered first, plastering on her fake smile. "Of course. We were just having a girls' night. You know how it is?" "Actually, I don't," I said, looking directly at Emily. "My wife's been so busy with work lately that we barely see each other. All those late nights, all those emergency projects. It's like she's living a completely different life." Emily's hand was shaking as she reached for her drink. "You know how demanding my job is, Alex. I don't have a choice." "Oh, but you do," I said softly. "You always have a choice. The question is whether you're brave enough to make the right one." I stood up and dropped a manila envelope on the table between them. "In case you're wondering who sent those emails," I said, "it was me." And in case you're wondering what's in that envelope, it's everything. Every text, every photo, every lie, every betrayal, all of it. Emily's face had gone from white to green. Alex, I can explain. No, I said, cutting her off. You really can't, but don't worry. You'll have plenty of time to practice your explanations when you're talking to your divorce lawyer. I turned to Miranda, who was staring at the envelope like it might bite her. By the way, Miranda, you might want to call David Chen and give him a heads up. I'm thinking his wife might be interested in some of the information I've collected. Miranda's fake smile finally cracked. You bastard. You have no right. I have every right, I said calmly. I'm the husband, remember? The one you've been laughing about behind his back for months. I picked up my beer and took a long drink, savoring the moment. Enjoy your girls' night, ladies. It might be your last one for a while. As I walked away, I could hear them frantically whispering to each other, probably trying to figure out how much I knew and what they could do about it. The answer was, I knew everything, and there was nothing they could do. The war had officially begun. Sunday morning, Emily was gone when I woke up. Her car wasn't in the driveway, and she'd left no note, no text, no explanation. I checked the GPS tracker I'd placed in her purse, a precaution I'd taken after discovering the affair, and saw that she was at Miranda's apartment across town. Good. Let them panic together. I spent the morning implementing the final phase of my plan. I'd been saving the nuclear option for last, but after seeing their faces at the Rusty Nail, I knew it was time to deploy it. Trevor's side business selling company information wasn't just unethical. It was also a violation of his employment contract and potentially illegal, depending on what kind of information he was selling. I'd spent the past week documenting everything, email trails, bank deposits, client lists, proprietary data that had somehow found its way to Pinnacle Tech's competitors. I compiled it all into a comprehensive report and sent it to 3 people: Trevor's boss, the CEO of Pinnacle Tech, and the FBI's white-collar crime division. I also sent copies to the local newspaper's business reporter, because Trevor's father was a public figure and the story would make for juicy headlines. Then I turned my attention to Miranda's affair with David Chen. David was married with 3 kids and had built his political career on family values and moral leadership. The voters might be interested to know that he was sleeping with a woman 15 years younger than his wife while using campaign funds to pay for hotel rooms. I documented that too. Hotel receipts, credit card statements, text messages, photos, everything a good scandal needed. I sent the package to David's political opponents, the local newspaper, and his wife's divorce attorney. I also made sure copies found their way to the City Ethics Commission and the State Election Board. By noon, I'd lit enough fires to keep Emily, Trevor, and Miranda busy for months. My phone started ringing at 12:30. Emily's name appeared on the screen, but I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again, and again. By the 5th call, I finally answered. "Hello, sweetheart," I said pleasantly. "How's your Sunday going?" "Alex, we need to talk." Her voice was tight with barely controlled panic. "I'm coming home." "Take your time," I said. "I'm not going anywhere." She arrived 20 minutes later, looking like she hadn't slept. Her hair was a mess, her makeup was smudged, and she was wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Miranda was with her, looking equally disheveled. They sat down across from me in the living room like they were facing a firing squad. "Alex," Emily began, "I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But we can work through this. We can go to counseling, we can—" "Stop," I said quietly. "Just stop." I pulled out my laptop and turned it toward them. On the screen was a folder labeled Evidence, containing hundreds of files. "This is everything," I said. "Every lie, every betrayal, every moment of the past 4 months when you thought you were so clever. Text messages, photos, location data, hotel receipts, phone records, all of it." Emily's face crumpled. "How did you—" "I'm a cybersecurity consultant, Emily. Finding hidden information is literally what I do for a living." I clicked through a few files, watching their faces as they recognized their own words on the screen. "Did you really think you could hide this from me?" Miranda leaned forward, trying to regain control of the situation. "Look, Alex, we all made mistakes here, but destroying everyone's lives isn't going to solve anything. We can be adults about this." I laughed, and the sound was harsh enough to make them both flinch. "Adults? Miranda, you've been encouraging my wife to cheat on me for months while you're screwing a married city councilman. Trevor's been selling company secrets while sleeping with half the office. And Emily?" I turned to my wife, the woman I'd loved for 12 years. "Emily's been lying to my face every single day while planning her next rendezvous." "But we can fix this," Emily said desperately. "I'll end it with Trevor. I'll quit my job, we'll move somewhere else, start over." "No," I said simply. "We can't." I closed the laptop and looked at both of them. Here's what's going to happen. Emily, you're going to pack your things and move out. Today. I've already contacted a divorce attorney, and you'll be served with papers tomorrow morning. Miranda, you're going to stay out of my life and hope that David Chen's wife is more forgiving than I am, and both of you are going to discover that actions have consequences. What do you mean? Miranda asked, though I could see in her eyes that she already knew. I mean that Trevor's little side business is now public knowledge. His boss, the FBI, and the newspapers all have copies of everything. I imagine he'll be hearing from them very soon. I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. I also imagine that David Chen's political career is about to get very interesting. Miranda went white. You can't do this. You'll destroy innocent people. Innocent? I stood up, and they both instinctively leaned back. David Chen's wife is innocent. His kids are innocent. I'm innocent. You three are the ones who chose to lie, cheat, and betray the people who trusted you. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth. Emily was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streaks. Alex, please. I love you. I made a mistake, but I love you. No, I said softly. You love the idea of me. You love having a stable home and a reliable husband and someone to fall back on when your adventures don't work out. But you don't love me. If you loved me, you never would have done this. I walked to the front door and held it open. You have 1 hour to pack whatever you need. Everything else we can sort out through lawyers. Emily stood up on shaking legs. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care, I said, and meant it. That's not my problem anymore. They left without another word, Emily sobbing and Miranda supporting her as they walked to the car. I watched them drive away, then closed the door and deadbolted it. For the first time in months, I was alone in my house, and it felt like I could finally breathe. My phone rang. It was Danny from the Rusty Nail. Honey, she said, I don't know what you did, but the whole town is talking. Trevor Holt got arrested this morning. David Chen just held a press conference announcing he's dropping out of the city council race, and there are news vans outside Pinnacle Tech. You want to tell me what happened? Justice, I said simply. Justice happened. Well, whatever you call it, drinks are on the house next time you come in. The whole bar is rooting for you. I hung up and walked through my house, seeing it clearly for the first time in months. It was quiet, peaceful, mine. No more lies, no more deception, no more walking on eggshells around someone who was betraying me every single day. My laptop chimed with a new email. It was from Emily, sent from her phone. Alex, I know you hate me right now, but please don't do this. Trevor lost his job, Miranda's boyfriend left her, and the whole city is talking about us. Haven't we been punished enough? Can't we just call it even and move on? I deleted the email without responding. There would be more emails, more phone calls, more attempts to make me feel guilty for exposing their lies. Emily would probably try to paint herself as the victim, claim that I'd overreacted, suggest that my response was worse than her betrayal, but I was done caring what any of them thought. I'd spent 4 months being made a fool of by people I trusted. I'd been lied to, cheated on, and mocked behind my back. They'd thought I was too stupid, too trusting, too comfortable to ever fight back. They'd been wrong. Monday morning brought a knock at my door. It was a process server with divorce papers. Emily was trying to beat me to the courthouse, probably hoping to control the narrative. Her filing claimed irreconcilable differences and asked for half of everything, including my business and the house. I called my attorney and had him file a countersuit within the hour. My version cited adultery, provided extensive evidence, and asked for everything. In North Carolina, adultery is still grounds for divorce, and it can affect property division and alimony. Emily was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Tuesday brought news that Trevor had been charged with corporate espionage and theft of trade secrets. His father's money might buy him a good lawyer, but it couldn't buy him innocence when the evidence was overwhelming. Wednesday's newspaper featured a front-page story about David Chen's affair and misuse of campaign funds. His political career was over, his marriage was over, and he was facing criminal charges. Thursday, Miranda was fired from Pinnacle Tech for her role in the Trevor situation and for using company resources for personal business. By Friday, all three of them had learned what I'd known for months, that actions have consequences, that lies eventually come to light, and that betraying someone's trust is the most expensive mistake you can make. Emily called me one last time that Friday evening. Are you happy now? She asked, her voice hollow. You've destroyed all of us. Trevor's in jail, Miranda can't find work anywhere in the city, and I'm living in a studio apartment and waiting tables. Was your revenge worth it? I thought about that question for a long moment. Emily, I said finally, I didn't destroy you. You destroyed yourself. I just made sure everyone else could see what you'd done." "We could have worked through this," she said. "Other couples survive affairs. We could have gone to counseling, rebuilt our marriage." "No," I said. "We couldn't, because that would have required you to be sorry for what you did instead of sorry that you got caught. And you're not sorry, you're just angry that there were consequences." I hung up and blocked her number. 6 months later, I was sitting at the Rusty Nail, having a beer and watching a basketball game on the big screen. Danny was working her usual shift, and the bar was full of the usual crowd of regulars who'd become my friends over the years. "You look good," Danny said, refilling my beer. Relaxed. "I feel good," I said, and meant it. Better than I have in years. The divorce had been finalized the month before. Emily got nothing. The evidence of her affair had been too overwhelming, and North Carolina law had been clear about the consequences. The house was mine, the business was mine, and my future was mine to decide. Trevor was serving 18 months in federal prison and would probably never work in tech again. Miranda had moved back to her hometown in Ohio, her reputation in ruins. David Chen was facing trial and would likely join Trevor behind bars. Emily was still in town, working at a diner downtown and living in a one-bedroom apartment. I'd heard through mutual friends that she was dating someone new, a mechanic who didn't know about her history. I wondered how long it would take her to start lying to him too, but that wasn't my problem anymore. "You ever think about dating again?" Danny asked, wiping down the bar. "Maybe someday," I said. "When I meet someone who understands that honesty isn't optional in a relationship." "Those people exist," she said. "You just have to know where to look." "I'll keep that in mind." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. For a moment, I thought it might be Emily trying to contact me from a new phone, but when I opened it, the message was from someone else entirely. "Hi, Alex. This is Sarah from the coffee shop on Main Street. Danny gave me your number and said you might be interested in getting coffee sometime. No pressure, but I'd love to hear more about your cybersecurity work. Sarah." I looked up at Danny, who was trying very hard to look innocent. "Really?" I said. "She's nice," Danny said defensively. "Smart, funny, owns her own business, and most importantly, she's never been married to anyone who cheated on her with a trust fund brat named Trevor." I laughed. The first real laugh I'd had in months. "Okay," I said, typing a response to Sarah. "Coffee sounds good." As I hit send, I realized that for the first time in a long time, I was looking forward to tomorrow. Not because I was planning revenge or gathering evidence or preparing for battle, but because I was finally free to build something new, something honest, something real, something that belonged entirely to me.